All right, everybody, welcome into the Hawks Eye podcast. Today we have guest Taylor Kyles, Patriot Insider, joining us. We're going to go through different things from the offensive defensive matchups of these two teams to the discussion on the team's identities to our coaches that we have in this game. But first off, Taylor, thank you so much for your time, man. And how you doing? How's Radio Row and everything?
Radio Row is busy. Actually, no, now things are getting torn down, but it's been a very week. It's been an exhausting week, but hey, man, it's a Super Bowl. This is when you go, full out. So that's what it's been. And the haze is pretty much in the barn right now. This is one of the last things I'm going to do before the Super Bowl. So I'm fired up for this conversation, brother. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. So before we get into it, make sure everybody, if you haven't, head over to the Hawks Eye podcast, like, subscribe, do all those great things. Help me keep this program going out, and make sure in the description, guys, will be Taylor's contact information down there for his stuff. So make sure you go over there and follow Taylor, but we will get into the entire conversation right after this.
Looks, it's up, it's caught, touchdown, make an extra point, make a conversion, I don't care what it is, the Seahawks win the game again. Play faking him, Sam is going to roll left, looking, Sam throws, back of the end zone, is it caught in bounds, it is, touchdown, Seahawks.
We did not care. It's always been about us and what we do. Now we're going to the Super Bowl.
It's a sick intro, dude. That is awesome. I got my second win, dude. I'm fired up.
All right. Well, that's good. And that's surprising considering it's for the Seahawks, but I love it, Taylor. So let's talk about these offenses and defenses in this matchup. For you, as a Patriots insider, when you saw that Seattle was the team you guys were going to play compared to the Rams, did it make you feel a little bit worse or better about the matchup for you guys in New England? How did you feel when that kind of was the draw?
I would say worse because I think that the Rams secondary is one that you may feel a little bit more comfortable passing on. Obviously, both of these teams are phenomenal in the trenches. I also think offensively, like Matthew Stafford and his receiving core are fantastic, that run game. But really, I mean, when you have Drake May, there's a certain level of confidence you go into games with, even considering how he's been throughout the playoffs. So I'm not too excited about the Patriots having to throw on the Seattle secondary, but in doing some research, I did feel like there were a couple guys they may want to target on a more consistent basis, considering there's also some places I very much do not want them to go with the football.
So who are those guys for you that have stood out? Because that's one thing for us in Seattle here. Like, we look at our secondary and go, hey, like, this might be our deepest secondary since the Legion of Boom era with Richard Sherman, Earl, and Cam. You got Julian Love, Kobe Bryant, Reek Woolen, Josh Jobe, Devin Witherspoon. I can assume who might be on that list of don't throw against, but I'm kind of curious on who the ones are that you want to try and take tests at.
So one of the first is Josh Jobe, and really no disrespect because I know he's a very competitive corner. That two-hand jam he's got is absolutely filthy. And when he is able to make contact, that's a dude that you don't really want to throw to. Like, if he's on the hip, I don't love the matchup, but I do think the Patriots have guys like a Kayshon Boutte, who's physical enough that he can fight through that. He can win at the catch point if you give him opportunities. And then a Kyle Williams, who is a rookie. He's been very inconsistent, but has an outstanding release package. Like some of the veterans, like A.J. Terrell went up against him and was like, bro, you got a pretty nasty release package. He didn't get the ball thrown to him, but you could see during that game that even for a guy who's been one of the best corners in the league, Kyle Williams getting off the line was a bit of a handful. And I really do think if he's able to get behind Josh Jobe, that's an automatic touchdown. And we've seen that at times this season. So Josh Jobe is somebody, I know he's not always going to be on the field, but when he is, I think the Patriots are going to look his way. Also, I would say Devin Witherspoon, and not in any situation, another guy where if it's something where he gets to go downhill and really be aggressive, I don't love the matchup. But again, I think the Patriots can get behind him because even since he was at Illinois, not a guy who has great vertical speed, even though he does a good job, again, with the physicality and not exactly getting burned, but with some of the more aggressive quarterbacks like Matthew Stafford, I mean, even Tariq Woolen, like Matthew Stafford's throwing deep, not really caring who's in coverage. But I do think that Devin Witherspoon and Josh Jobe, if Drake May, he's going to go big play hunting. I think those are guys he's going to look at. Also, Kobe Durant, Not a guy I think they pick on necessarily, but Drake May loves his hole shots. I think when they're in some of their too high shells, the Seahawks, maybe you try some of those underneath Durant's coverage. And I wouldn't be surprised if Drake May goes for a post maybe when they're in quarters and Durant, Kobe Bryant and Kobe Durant. The fact that they're both of those guys in the NFL drives me insane. So I'm very sorry if I subconsciously say the wrong name. But Kobe Durant, I do think if they can find him in the post and get a mismatch with a wide receiver or a slot receiver like Demario Douglas, I do like that matchup.
It's really funny that you bring up Kobe Bryant, because for us, the one thing that for me this year is Kobe kind of came onto the scene late last year after he took the job from Rayshawn Jenkins, played really well. And then we lost Julian Love earlier this year, and everyone was kind of like, okay, how's Kobe going to play? And to your point, that's one of my biggest things. And I've been a Kobe Bryant lover since he came into the league. I loved his tape out of Cincinnati. But the move for me to safety was like, okay, this makes some sense. But then now watching him, I'm like, yeah, you can get had because you just sometimes get a little too aggressive. I almost am more of a fan of Ty Akata playing next to Julian Love back there. He has actually played better and he's more athletic. But now they're obviously rolling with who their initial starters are, which is fine. And Kobe's played well. I agree with you on the Devin Witherspoon part. He slipped so much in the NFC Championship game on those vertical type of moments. I think he gets a little too aggressive. I do agree with you completely on Josh Jobe, though, in the sense of if you can get those matchups, and they did it with Devontae Adams in the NFC Championship game, getting vertical, getting off that jam, it can cause problems. Now, the only thing I'll say for Seattle in that situation is how is your offensive line going to handle that four-man pressure package that Mike McDonald loves to bring? And I'll be honest, like Will Campbell, since he's come back from his injury, hasn't necessarily been as dominant as he was early on in the season through the stretch of the playoffs. And you got to think, if I'm Mike McDonald, the one guy I'm lining up on Will Campbell all day is Tank Lawrence and letting him go to work with his long arms and trying to get that bull rush advantage there. How do you see your offensive line holding up against what Seattle does so well with their four-man pressure packages?
I think the Patriots can hold up pretty well with their veterans. So the right side, Mike Inouye and Morgan Moses have developed a very strong chemistry. There are guys where if you want to stunt, we know Seattle is going to send a ton of those. The right side, I'm not so worried about. Garrett Bradbury has also well exceeded expectations at center. But that left side with the rookies, like you mentioned, Will Campbell at left tackle, but also Jared Wilson at left guard. Those guys have been up and down, as you would expect, right, from any team that's got two rookies on the exact same side. And yes, Tank Lawrence, I didn't even know you guys called him Tank. That's phenomenal. I'm going to steal it, and I'm going to start using it. But Tank Lawrence, the size, the arm length, also his ability to force fumbles. I even asked him about that during the opening night, like how he's kind of matured as a ball disruptor, because one of the things I'm really worried about is Drake May trying to extend a play, doesn't realize Lawrence is right behind him, and he knocks that thing out. And to your point, I think Will Campbell's done very well against speed and explosiveness, which some people may not have expected when he was coming out of college because the short arms, can he get out there? Nick Benito, he showed in the AFC Championship game, even if it doesn't always look pretty, he can get those fast guys around the arc, but you can get guys who have those longer arms than him, get into his chest and push him into the quarterback. That's going to be tough, and Drake's going to need to know, hey, if that's the matchup, I probably need to get this ball out quick. And also Jared Wilson going up against a Byron Murphy, a Leonard Williams. He's been kind of up and down in pass protection. Was actually very good against Zach Allen in the AFC Championship game. I want to give him credit. And he's really been better since that first playoff game they had against the Chargers. Still a rookie, still a guy who I think in the offseason is going to need to get stronger, add some weight. Obviously not a great matchup when you're talking about the Seahawks interior defensive line and even stunts. I think those two guys they've been solid for rookies again, but there are still miscommunications. I also think Seattle, they love their simulated pressures, right? Where you're going to send Nick Emenwari and you're going to send four, but you don't know where they're coming from. And there have been times where Will Campbell and Jared Wilson will let pressure come in on stunts and they will have no idea that the guy has gone past them. So if there is one thing in this game that I'm very, very worried about, it's definitely that rookie left side of the Patriots offensive line against maybe not really the speed rushers for the Seahawks, but again, DeMarcus Lawrence, then Byron Murphy and Leonard Williams on Jared Wilson. But I think one thing the Patriots can do to help is keep Ramondre Stevenson in protection. He's basically another offensive lineman out there, for my money, the best pass protecting back in football, where he can literally stand in the A-gap as a sniffer. And in the AFC Championship game, Zach Allen came over on a stunt. And Ramondre Stevenson, they just say die slow in those situations. And that's exactly what he did. So with those four-man rushes, I think they're going to want to keep Ramondre Stevenson in as another set of eyes on that left side. So if they do try their games, maybe he can help kind of alleviate some of the pressure that the Seahawks can dial up.
Well, and that's the one thing I was going to ask you too about your running backs in pass pro, because that's the one thing Henderson, I would say, is kind of like when he's in the and you can get him in those pass pro sets, he's almost like Swiss cheese at this point. He's done such a poor job at it. And I agree with you. You have to keep Stevenson in there, because if you don't, you're really not giving May any extra protection when you do leave a running back in there. You're better to let the guy go out into the concept and at least give him an opportunity then to get rid of the ball quick and on a hot.
Absolutely. Yeah. Travion, he's been up and down. There was a point where you could see the growth, but it does feel like towards the end of the season, there has been some regression, both as a pass blocker and as a running back. I think his vision was getting better, and now it's starting to go back to the point where Ramondre is not just the bell cow. He really is the featured back with a little bit of Travion Henderson. So I've heard a lot of people talk about Travion being an X factor and all those things. If that happens, I will be overjoyed, because like Kyle Williams, he's a guy where he can get the ball in his hands and there's a chance he's going to take it to the house no matter where he is on the field. But with that inconsistency, I just don't know how much the Patriots are going to trust him in a game of this magnitude.
So let's flip to the other side here. We'll put you guys on defense. How confident do you feel in your secondary handling what Seattle has done offensively in the passing game to start with? And is Gonzalez going to follow JSN around the field?
I do think he's going to follow. And I mean, Christian Gonzalez is about to be up for a big contract. You're in the Super Bowl against the best wide receiver in 2025. This is where you earn your money, right? And you had 2 weeks to prepare. Sometimes Mike Vrabel says, you know, when you shadow, it's not always just a one-to-one thing, right? Because sure, Christian Gonzalez is going to follow JSN, but where does Carlton Davis go? Where does Marcus Jones go, right? If you say, okay, Carlton Davis go up against Cooper Kupp because he's not the most explosive guy, are you putting Carlton Davis in the slot? I don't think that's a great matchup. I also don't like Carlton Davis outside against Rashid Shaheed. So I think those secondary matchups are going to be very interesting. My dream would be when they are in those man coverage situations, Gonzo on JSN, Marcus Jones on Rashid Shaheed, and Carlton Davis on Cooper Kupp. But again, that's a dicey one, because if Cooper's inside, Carlton's an outside corner. So it's going to be interesting to see how they match that up exactly. But like even JSN, we know they use him in the backfield and have throughout the season. I think in some of those looks, we'll see more zone coverage, right? But when they're in zone, expect JSN to get hit a lot. If he's in the backfield and he's trying to release out, remember that Marshall Faulk game that Mike Vrabel played in, where every time he tried to release and be a receiver, Bill Belichick said, knock the shit out of him. Every time, do not let him get into his routes cleanly. I know for a fact with JSN, when they are in zone, it's whether it's Marcus Jones, whether it's a linebacker, whether it's Calebon Chason, they're going to make sure this guy is not getting into his routes smoothly. So in those man coverage situations, again, I do think it's going to be a lot of Christian Gonzalez. When they go more towards zone, I think it's going to be Gonzo on the boundary. We know JSN, some of those fade routes when he's the boundary receiver, he's very, very good at those on early downs. So maybe try to take those away. But again, man, some of these other matchups I'm not super confident in, specifically Carlton Davis. I think it's kind of an awkward fit in this game where exactly he's going to match up and where he's going to play.
Yeah, and that was the one thing, because the one out of the receiving group you were talking about, the one thing I think Seattle has actually done a better job this year in Clint Kubiak's scheme, and it's unfortunate he's going to be leaving us after the Super Bowl, but is AJ Barner and these tight ends. Yeah. It sounds like Elijah Arroyo may be back, who is our rookie that can really be a stretch factor down.
He's had some crazy catches, dog.
Yeah, so that's where I'm like, that for your linebackers and your safeties, that now poses another problem when we line up in our 12 personnel, and you could flex Elijah Arroyo out into the slot, or even AJ Barner. Who do you think follows out there? Is it a safety coming down, or do you trust your linebackers out there in that coverage?
So most of the time in those situations, the Patriots don't love having their linebackers go up against tight ends. And in this game especially, I think if that's a possibility, they're probably going to lean more towards zone when possible. But in terms of man coverage situations, Craig Woodson, their rookie fourth-round pick at safety, has really come on in the playoffs and become an actual difference maker. Whereas during the season, I mean, again, we're talking about a fourth-round rookie who's played more defensive snaps than a lot of their other defensive players. He might actually lead the defensive snaps now that I think about it. So he was very solid and played a respectable level. But now, again, like he's getting interceptions, he's getting close to interceptions, recovering fumbles, he's blitzing, he's really made an impact. And they also tend to like him in those one-on-one matchups. Now, I will say, he's got short arms, and even though he's sticky, if Sam Darnold just puts it on the top shelf like Elijah Arroyo, I could see that being a matchup that plays into Seattle's favor. And maybe you force the Patriots to say, all right, now we got to play zone. And another guy, very under the radar, Del Pettis. He's more of a special teamer, but when they get into their dime packages, he comes on as a linebacker, number 24, and he's been fantastic in those one-on-one matchups. It seems like every time teams throw to him, he's prepared and is able to knock it down. So that's a great point. And the A.J. Barner, if the Patriots let him score on one of those corner posts, I'm going to lose my mind, especially in the red zone. That is such a good switch up. I tweeted about it, and someone was like, he's only scored on 2 of those, right? I'm like, that is a good enough change up in a tight game like this where the margins are going to be razor thin. You have to know on those boots, you can't just sleep and say, okay, Barner's going to the corner. You got to know if you're in the middle of the field, he might reverse back and potentially take that thing to the house. So there's no easy answers, man. The Seahawks have, I think, more weapons than people give them credit for, and especially because of the mismatches they can create with those tight ends.
So now let's talk about the one thing that Seattle's all of a sudden activated in the playoffs, and that's Kenneth Walker in this running game. And you guys have a very good run defense, especially when Milton Williams is in there. He's definitely makes the impact felt. The one guy I wanted to ask you about actually isn't Williams. It's Tavia. When he's on there, it seems that the team almost struggles in some senses when he's on the edge lined up because of the type of formations they play with him in that set. How do you see that matchup of the front 7 of New England versus the Seattle offensive line in this running back game with Kenneth Walker playing like a top 10 back through the playoffs here?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be interesting to see how the Patriots match up with their 2 tight end sets on early downs, because typically they play a lot of base. But we also know the Seahawks want to be able to pass and take shots out of some of those looks. So do you put Marcus Jones on the field? Do you say, hey, you can run the ball on us as much as you want, but if you try to go play action, we're going to be prepared? In terms of running the ball, I don't think Seattle's going to have a lot of success on the inside. I think that's a huge mismatch in favor of the Patriots with their depth on the interior. Milton Williams and Christian Barmore are the headliners, but Kyrus Tonga has been excellent as a nose tackle. Corey Durden's been a diamond in the rough. He was actually cut by the Giants. The Patriots picked him up right before the season started. And when you look at pass rush win rate from PFF, he is tied with Jeffrey Simmons, a much smaller sample size, right? He's more a guy you're going to see on early downs, but in those transition rushes, when you do have the play fakes, he does a great job putting the pocket in the quarterback's lap and sometimes quite literally throwing guys. So I think that those guys are going to hold it up on the interior. The edges will be interesting because Tavai can be very hit or miss, right? He's kind of what they call an adjuster, where he can play on the line of scrimmage and some of their like 5-down looks. If they want to go 3 guys off the ball and just 4-down linemen, he'll rotate and be one of those off-ball guys. But really, I think this is going to come down to Anthony Jennings, who's primarily a run stopper, been an ass kicker since they drafted him. I think that was 2020, I believe. And Calebon Chason, who's also been much better as a run defender than he was for most of the season. But with the outside zone scheme that the Seahawks are going to want to run, it's one thing, I know that Kenneth Walker, he can bounce it, but he really likes to get between the tight ends and the offensive tackles. So restricting those lanes is going to be huge. And the Patriots defensive backs are more than willing tacklers. But when they struggle against outside zone, it's when teams are able to hit outside the tackles. So that's going to be a huge one, because if Kenneth Walker can get to the edge, we know how explosive and dangerous he is. You just cannot let him get explosive runs. So, I don't know exactly how they're going to match up. I would assume it's going to be a lot of their base looks early on. But if they go nickel, I wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of an approach where you say, hey, we're going to bend but not break. And once you get into the red zone, then we're really going to try to tighten up a little bit more.
And that's kind of my thought, because I agree with you. Your guys' interior run defense is really, really good. It's the edges that have been the issue. And even going back and watching the Baltimore game, and I think it was week 16 that it was. The Ravens had you guys on the edges that whole game, and then they went away from it and tried to run inside, and it was like, why? You have the edge. You're setting it. Just stick with it. And I think that's one thing Clint Kubiak does such a good job. When he finds a weakness, he will literally keep going at it until you prove you can stop it, which is something Seattle hasn't had as an OC for a very long time. So it'll be interesting. Now, the one thing I'm going to ask you about, too, in this whole situation is Sam Darnold. Obviously, you got, a lot of look at him when he was with the Jets. He left, went to Carolina, has come full circle now. What has changed, in your opinion, about Sam Darnold from when you first saw him to what you're seeing now as a Super Bowl level quarterback about to play the Patriots?
I think it's the consistency when things aren't going right for him, because obviously when he was with the Jets, it was just such a poor system around him that really it was pretty consistently bad with flashes of good. Now, when things are going right, it's a lot of good. There are some flashes of yikes, like throwing behind guys, not seeing underneath defenders. They end up undercutting things. Like, there's a little bit of that. But for the most part, you see why he was a first-round pick. And the talent is coming to the forefront. But when he's under pressure, I will say in the playoffs, the dude's been lights out. All due respect. Like, I do not want to slander what he's done, because I know 3 of his touchdowns were under pretty heavy pressure. So kudos there. But is he going to be able to do that if the Patriots consistently put the pocket in his lap? Because I feel like one of the biggest storylines of this entire past couple of weeks is the difference when Sam Darnold is pressured versus when he's not. So maybe he has a performance like he's had in the playoffs and is able to overcome what I think is going to be a bit of an onslaught from this Patriots interior. But I also think the more likely scenario is that at some point, probably in the second half, that's going to start kind of getting into his head because that pressure is not going to let up. And I don't really know how the Seahawks solve it because I love Gray Zabel. He's still a rookie. He's going to be seeing a lot of Milton Williams, who's similarly athletic, but also very powerful. Anthony Bradford, a guy who I think is kind of going to get taken to town by Christian Barmore, who's just a massive, powerful guy. And also I talked about Tonga and all those guys. So, yeah, I think that Sam Darnold has come a long way and grown a lot, but I think the ghost things and the criticisms from earlier in his career are still in his game. It's going to be up to the Patriots to put him in uncomfortable positions. Do not let the play action game kill you. Get the Seahawks in some non-favorable positions like 3rd and 7+, and that is where I think they have the real recipe to win the game. Let your guys tee off and be a little bit more aggressive.
That'll be the interesting thing because I think the one thing Seattle's developed, to your point, and I agree with you, when the pressure gets there and it's consistent, you can see Sam, in the Week 11 game versus the Rams, we saw bad Sam Darnold really come out in that game in some respects. I think the thing Clint Kubiak's done such a good job of as of late is the screen game and getting Kenneth Walker involved in it to deal with exactly your point. When the Rams came and decided to bring their interior pressure, they had these out-releasing valves for Sam to just, hey, get it out. Or the one thing I'll say Sam's done a much better job of is taking sacks. Hey, I got a great defense. I'm going to live to play another down in another series. I just take the sack, don't put the ball in jeopardy's way. It'll be an interesting kind of small chess match within this game to see what Mike Vrabel and that defense does to create that pressure. But let's talk about some X factors here, Taylor, that aren't the stars of this game. Who are some? Give me 2 on the Patriots and give me 2 on the Seahawks, in your opinion, that could be X factors in this game.
Let's see. For the Patriots, I will go with Kyle Williams again, because I think that points are going to be tough to come by, and a guy who can score the second he gets the ball in his hands. And again, because of that matchup with Josh Jobe, I really think that's one the Patriots are going to be able to exploit. On the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to go with Robert Spillane if he plays. If he doesn't, maybe Jack Gibbons, because that's going to be his replacement. Now, Robert Spillane is currently questionable, has an ankle injury. He's battled with it for a while. It's a reason he missed a lot of time for the Patriots. When Robert Spillane's out there, it looks like a different defense. He does such a great job communicating, getting them in the right plays, being a hammer against the run. And Jack Gibbons does a lot of the same things, but I don't think he gets as much depth in his zones. And I just think while he's still a very smart player and very physical, he isn't really to the caliber of Robert Spillane. So if Spillane plays, I think that is a massive difference maker in this game because I think it helps them kind of win a little bit more on early downs. If it's Jack Gibbons, I don't think that they don't necessarily, but I might be a little bit more worried about the pass defense when the Seahawks go play action and try to throw it over the middle of the field. For the Seahawks, I am going to go with Charles Cross. I think him being able to shut down the Patriots' edge rushers, and honestly, I think the Patriots' entire defensive line has some pretty good advantages, but I think if Charles Cross can keep Sam Darnold's blind side protected, so at least that's not something he has to worry about, where we know he likes to spin outside the pocket. If Charles can give him some of those lanes, then it could work out, but if he doesn't, that's where I think you can get some potential turnover opportunities, because when quarterbacks panic, the Patriots have done a phenomenal job of taking advantage and making them pay. I'll try to find somebody on the defensive side. I'll actually go with Drake London, because I think he's going to – or Drake Thomas, because I think he has the potential as a blitzer to really hurt their run game, potentially make them one-dimensional. And if that happens, that's a position I really don't want to see the Patriots in. So, and I also want to shout out Ernest Jones. What a player. My goodness. When I was looking at the tape, I'm seeing, okay, where are the explosive plays that he's giving up so they can maybe try to exploit some of these? Because he's got more than I expected. I look at him and I'm like, oh, I would not advise almost any of these throws because Ernest is like the ball is basically going right over his fingertips. So I also want to give him some credit. He is a really fun player to watch as well.
I believe this year he has the most interceptions on our defense with 5 of them as a linebacker,
which,
right. Which kind of explains that. For me, the X factors, for you guys, I got Hunter Henry as one because I think Seattle, one thing they have had trouble with, and Nicky Manwari has actually had trouble with, is covering tight ends. And Hunter Henry is a pretty savvy tight end, so he's one of the guys on offense. Defense for you guys, that's a tough one. I might go, I know he's a star, but he's kind of questionable. If Harold Landry can be somewhat healthy, and be able to go, he might give enough on that pass rush, but I don't know because, again, he's another guy that's popped up. Like when he's healthy, he's one of the better pass rushers, especially with his combos going outside to inside really quickly in that twitch. But if that's not there, that's going to be interesting. On the Seahawks side for X Factors, I'm going Rashid Shaheed. I think they're getting him more and more involved in this. And then on defense for Seattle, I'm going to go – oh, man, this is a tough one. I'm going to go, as crazy as it sounds, Jaron Reed.
I don't think that's crazy. I like that.
So the reason I'm going with Jaron Reed is he's kind of a carryover from that LOB era. Even though he was drafted after the 2 Super Bowls, he grew up with that group. And I got a feeling that guy might be someone that a Bradbury has troubles with interiorly because Jaron can still get after the quarterback. He can still collapse pockets. He doesn't have to as much anymore. He is one of the older guys on our group. So I'm going with Jaron Reed on the defensive side for the X Factors. But Taylor, I know you've got to get out of here because your whole set's coming down and the guys are getting ready to go.
My friends left me. It's okay, though. I'm having fun.
Your friends all left. All right. So the last thing I'll kind of ask you about here, and then we'll get your prediction. This identity clash of these two teams in the Super Bowl is kind of opposite of what we get in most Super Bowls. Usually you get a team with a phenomenal defense and then this high-powered offense. But in this case, we're getting two teams with very good defenses and running games and like not really necessarily high-powered offenses to the extent of what we're used to in a Super Bowl. How do you see that going through and even down to the coaching staffs? Because you're getting probably two of the best coaches in the NFL right now going against it and full staffs of it.
It's so tough because, like, if it's regular season Drake May and we see him play more that way, I think that's an advantage in favor of the Patriots because Drake May, he's been more rattled in the postseason, and that's also because of weather, right? He's playing some of the best defenses he's seen in his entire career back-to-back weeks. So, you know, there are some caveats you can throw in there, but at the end of the day, he's got to play better. And it might even rain in Santa Clara, so we have no idea what that's going to look like. But again, like I said earlier, I think at some point Sam Darnold is going to – I don't want to be disrespectful. Say ghost necessarily, but I do think his performance is going to fall off at some point. And if Rashid Shaheed, I think I love that you had him as an X factor because I think if he can be someone who capitalizes on matchups while the Patriots focus on JSN, that's one where I probably put it in favor of Seattle. And defensively, it's tough because I think both teams are going to be really hard to run or throw the ball on. But I might give the advantage to the Seahawks defensively because I think the Patriots, like I said, with Carlton Davis, it's a little bit awkward. And with Marcus Jones against Cooper Kupp, I mean, if Sam Darnold, again, puts it on the top shelf and Cooper Kupp can haul it in, not a whole lot Marcus Jones can do. As competitive as he is, like this is a guy who's an interception threat to take it to the house when he does, and he's hyper competitive where the smallest margin for error he can take advantage of. But there are still some mismatches I don't love there. And even though I think Kayshon Boutte and some of the Patriots receivers can take advantage of some matchups on the other side as well, if I were a Seahawks fan, I'd probably be a little more encouraged by what we have.
I got this weird feeling that Cooper Kupp could have like a throwback game just because the matchup, like to your point, the JSN, focus, and he's kind of been heating up in the playoffs. The 49ers game, he led the team in targets and in catches at a point throughout that game. The NFC Championship game, he comes up with so many crucial third down and long catches. Like, it just feels like he's kind of got this like spurt right now where it's like, I'm going to be old Cooper Kupp a little bit, which to your point, if you get one of the mismatches, then you exploit it as much as you can. And he may not be as fast as he once was, but he's sure as good once as he ever could be. So you never know. You never know there with Cooper Kupp. But Taylor, I'm going to get your prediction. What do you think? And I know you're a Patriots fan, so don't worry. No one in the chat's gonna give you grief if you pick what you pick. But what do you think this Super Bowl is going to end up looking like?
I think it's going to be Seahawks early on, and then I think the Patriots, because they've done such good with their second half adjustments, like Zach Core, first time being a defensive coordinator in the NFL, former offensive coach, has just blown away expectations taking over for Terrell Williams, who unfortunately was diagnosed with prostate cancer, is now cancer-free, which is phenomenal. But, I mean, Core has taken his opportunity and run with it. Josh McDaniels, I mean, one of the best offensive coordinators, if not the best offensive coordinator in the history of the NFL, so much Super Bowl success. You're not going to see the same offense in the second half from him that you're going to see in the first, and I think that's going to be a big factor. And also Mike Vrabel. I mean, his situational awareness, and also with John Stryker or Stretch, who is in charge of game management for them and is the guy in Mike Vrabel's ear, has done such a great job putting them in positions to take advantage of some inexperience or some mistakes from other teams. Like in the AFC Championship game, when the Broncos tried to switch out personnel, Mike Vrabel very wisely had his players, knowing that they had all the time in the world, slowly jog off the field so the play clock would tick down on the Broncos, and that was what contributed to Christian Gonzalez's interception that helped seal the game. So for me, it really is the coaching staff that makes the biggest difference. And it's nothing against the Seahawks. It really more is just the experience that Mike Vrabel's had as a player, and obviously how he's grown as a coach, and also what we've seen from Zach Core and Josh McDaniels' experience. So I'm going to go with Patriots 20, Seahawks 17. And I mean, I won't be surprised if I'm wrong, man. This is going to be a great game. I'm very excited for it. I think it's going to be tight. But again, I just think the coaching is going to make the biggest difference. And the Patriots have found consistent ways to win the games. And it doesn't matter if they look terrible in the first half, like whatever it is, it's been so impressive that after so many years of consistently, even with Bill Belichick, finding ways to lose games that they had chances to win, they've done the complete opposite. So based on what I've seen, in my biased opinion, I think they do that once again on Sunday.
So for me, it's really interesting because I was going to say the same thing about Seattle this year with their second half adjustments, how they've been able to go into games, and then the second half they just boat race the other team that they're playing and take off. And the one thing I'll say is I feel like the Seattle Seahawks playoff run for them, having to basically win their division again to get to the Super Bowl and play potentially two of, in my opinion, the three top other teams in the NFL are Rams, 49ers, and Patriots. So they had to play two of them to get back to the Super Bowl. I think there's something about the Seattle team where they just are so focused on what their objective is. They've got the, mantra MOB and mission over bullshit. And it's what they live by in the dark side defense. And, I've always been one of those people as a coach myself, defense wins championships. And I just look at it going that the way that they're playing as a team, who they have is basically two head coaches with Clint Kubiak and Mike McDonald. And you have the same thing with Vrabel and McDaniels in a lot of ways. But the thing is, I just think Seattle is a little bit more talented in depth in some places than the Patriots. And I think it's going to be close. I think at the halftime, it's going to be like 17-10 or in that ballpark. And then I think something shifts in the second half, whether it's a Shaheed big special teams play or something. And I think the ends up final being 31-17 Seattle just because of the depth. I don't think it's a blowout. I don't think Seattle's up 31-0 and then they just kind of cruise. I think it'll take the second half for them really to try and get away in that game. And it may end up being 31-20. I just look at Drake May and I go, what he's done, to your point, regular season Drake May would scare me a lot more than what I've seen in the playoffs. And I get the weather's been there, but there have been also opportunities where Drake May is missing guys that are open and he's just struggling. And so that's why I'm going 31-17. However, I would not be shocked if we don't see this Super Bowl matchup in another 2 or 3 seasons from now with how young these teams are and these organizations are built. And some of these other organizations are kind of peeling off. I could see there being a rematch in the future where we get this again at some point down the road. But Taylor, I really want to thank you for your time, man. Really appreciate you hopping on here and doing this. But let my listeners and the 121 people currently watching know where they can find more of your stuff, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time. If we get that rematch, maybe we do a home and home for that one. But yeah, thank you all for watching. So you can find my videos at Patriots Press Pass on YouTube. My Twitter is at tkyles39, and you can find my written work over at clnsmedia.com.
All right, Taylor. Well, I thank you for your time, man, and have a good rest of your time there in Radio Row and at the Super Bowl.
Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you again for having me. Take care, everybody.
All right, everyone. That was Taylor Kyles from SNLS over there in Boston. Does a great job covering the Patriots. Really somebody that Mookie Alexander put me in touch with, which was awesome of Mookie to do that, and I appreciate him as he's down there at Santa Clara and will be on tomorrow night's preview show. But I'm not going to end the show right now. We've only been at it 34 minutes, and I started a little early. I know this was originally scheduled for 6 o'clock, so what we're going to do right now, though, is this is an open floor. You guys put your questions, your comments, your super chats in there. I will answer them. We'll go for another 30 minutes here and just kind of have a nice viewer, Q&A session. So let's see what we got already here. We got a couple donations already into the chat here. We got Peter Go Hawks. Peter, always appreciate you, man, with a $5 donation. Here's $5 because F the Pats and the 49ers. Go Hawks. Appreciate you, Peter. Appreciate your passion there, my friend. And another one in here with $2 donation from Peter going 38-12. Nick Eamon-Wari extra point block for the 12 blowout. Yeah, I think it's interesting how this week has gone because you see guys like Kyle Brandt and a few others really, really going into this, kind of state of, oh, I'm picking the Patriots now because everyone's getting fearful of everybody picking a team to win a Super Bowl and there being a massive letdown. And here's my view of that. Whenever that has been the case, the team that usually is the favorite and everyone is picking is a team that has an elite, high-powered offense, but an iffy defense. You look at those Chiefs teams, whenever they've lost, you look at, the Broncos when obviously they played us in the Super Bowl. It's one of those things where I look at it and I go, it's very rare that a team with the level of defense that Seattle has is favored, doesn't come out on top in those Super Bowls. And I'm still trying to understand, the rationale of, where the Patriots are going to consistently manifest their offense with a quarterback who's in year 2, really year 1 of truly playing significant amounts of snaps, because he basically didn't play the first half of his rookie year, going up against a guy in Mike Macdonald that does not play a simplistic defense. That's the, one thing for me where I kind of look at it and I go, that's hard. It's hard as even a coach to give your quarterback easy throws when he doesn't know what he's looking at. And we know Mike Macdonald's going to make Drake think he's got some easy opportunities and he'll take them away. And that's going to be the interesting thing. And we saw the injury report. The only person listed on it is Robbie Oots with a questionable neck injury, which, you know what? I'm kind of happy that that's questionable because that's an improvement from where it was before. Even if he doesn't play, I think we're in good shape on offense that way. I got a feeling they're going to activate Elijah Arroyo. But the thing for me that'll be most interesting is, does Josh McDaniels try and test Nicky Manwari early to see how healthy he really is? That will be the interesting thing. What do we got here in the chat? I'll have a look, guys. I know a bunch of you have been in here from the start, so I'll take a look from the top, see if there's anything in here. Let's have a look. We got one from our moderator, John McGrath. Goes Darnold for MVP for the Super Bowl. I would love that. I think that would be the perfect way to cap off Sam's redemption arc and everything, John. I've got a weird feeling it might be Ken Walker. I have a hunch Ken Walker just goes off in this game. So I would be good with Sam too. I'm not going to complain if it's Sam either way. Let's see what else we got in here. Brian's in here going, I operate under the premise that Nick won't lose any push or speed on that ankle. He's going to figure out prominently into our pass rush. I agree. I think Mike is probably going to come at Drake early and often with simulated pressures and full-on pressures. It's going to be very, very interesting. Space in here. So what's up with Brandon's last clip? I'm guessing you're assuming the round table clip that went out. It's Brandon talking about the sale of the team and how Robert Kraft is a slimy SOB in a lot of ways, I think is where Brandon's going with that. And I don't really have a problem with it. We got Mel Dory in here going, worried about Drake May running on 3rd and long. So I was watching the Josh from 12 Talk. He was on, I think it's called Foxborough Bros or Patriots, a UK Patriots-based podcast. And they were talking about Drake May and how Seattle struggles with running quarterbacks. And I'm trying to understand this logic behind this narrative of us struggling with running quarterbacks because I haven't seen that this year. This isn't like when we played Cam Newton back in the past and he'd run all over us, or, Lamar Jackson and these different things. Like, yeah, quarterbacks can scramble all they want in the backfield. We've seen Purdy do it, but he did it in the NFC or divisional game and he didn't amount to much. Like, we haven't been hurt by a running quarterback where it's like he's constantly converting and killing us and we can't get off the field as a defense. Like, I haven't seen that once this year. So this is where, for me, like, when I think of a quarterback running and giving our defensive fits, it's like they're the extender of the drive consistently is their legs. And it's like, we can't get off the field because when we think we have them, they get, another 3rd and 7 conversion with their legs. I just don't see it. Like, yeah, Drake may do it once or twice. I don't see him being the consistent source of it. And again, the other thing for that is a lot of the time when these teams and when teams get beat by that is they are in man coverage and no one has accounted for the quarterback. Mike Macdonald is one of the very few DCs that does not put his defense in those situations a lot of the time. And if it's 3rd and long, they're playing some sort of cover with zone coverage with a match principle in it. And that's where I think, a guy like Drake May, and also Seattle's so disciplined in their pass rush lanes. You've got veteran guys that know how to do it, like Tank Lawrence and a Big Cat. So I'm not nearly as worried about Drake May running around like people seem to be so hyper focused on. So hope that helps, Meldori, but it's a fair point. I'm not worried about it as much as some people. And we got Cody in here going, I got a question. So Cody, I'll try and find your question here, my friend, and see what your question was. Don't actually seem to see it. What do we got here? John McGrath with a good one here. Would absolutely love to see Arroyo finally have a breakout game that we've been waiting for all year. Hey, maybe John, maybe Arroyo becomes Chris Matthews from Super Bowl 49, even though it didn't end the way we wanted to. Had a random breakout game in the Super Bowl. Maybe that's Elijah Arroyo. Who knows? That could definitely be an interesting one. Jay goes, now we need Saubert for this game. I doubt we see Arroyo. It all depends, in my opinion, on how many running backs Seattle feels they need to activate in this game. Do they activate Jones and Akers, or do they only activate one? And is Robbie Oots going to be healthy enough to go? That's going to be your other deciding factor in this. So they may bring Arroyo because of the fact they want to have someone in the red zone that they think they can get matchups with. He may just be a red zone guy, right? They've had 2 weeks, but it'll be interesting to see. Let's see. What else do we got in here? all LG in here with, I'm so excited I can't stand myself. I looked in the mirror and just hate what I saw. I need a haircut. Hey, you know what? I'll be honest, man. Paint your hair green and blue, man. Go full Seahawk colors for Sunday. Get that instant paint that washes out afterwards. Just go nuts with it. Have yourself some fun, because who knows, you may need it down there in Seattle, in the Seattle area if you decide to go to the parade. Who knows? This is an interesting one. Fro in here with brag time. My friend's daughter won 2 Super Bowl tickets from the season ticket holder program. They really do give them away. Well, congratulations to your friend's daughter. That is absolutely outstanding, and hopefully they have a great time down at the Super Bowl and they're enjoying a Super Bowl victory come 8:30, 9 o'clock Sunday night. What else do we got in here? Yeah, Taylor, he did. You got to think McDaniels does run a very good offense when he has a quarterback that can fully control it, which I don't know if Drake May can. That's the one thing that's interesting about this. If Drake May gets into those situations again where teams are running like Seattle runs a lot of too high and late in their rotations to fool them, that's where you can take advantage of it. So they do have an offense that can be complicated, Jay, at points. I just don't know how complicated it is. So that's a fair point. Let's see. After hearing this guy 38-12, yeah, that's fair. What else do we got in here, everybody? Interesting, John. I know you put the thing in there about Dynasty. I think there is an opportunity here, but it has to start out on the right foot. If they win this Super Bowl, I think there's real conversation, because who next year starts as a Super Bowl favorite? Everybody on this team could theoretically return if Seattle really wanted them to. They could pay everybody based on how the cap's moved up and how they can work contracts. They could pay everybody. So it's a real interesting conversation for sure. What else do we got? Oh, got another $2 donation in here from Derek. Where'd you get that hat? And is it fitted? Go Hawks. Okay, so this particular hat that you all are asking about, I legitimately have no idea where this hat was purchased from. I have tried looking for it myself. My wife, however, is the one that purchases all of the hats that you see me wear on the show. Every single hat has been purchased by her. I have purchased 0 of those. I've told her how everyone's been asking and how everyone really enjoys this hat and likes this Seahawks hat, and she will refuse to tell me where she purchased it, just because of the fact it is so unique in its own right. So I'm still looking myself. If I do find it, I'll let people know, but As of right now, I have no current understanding of where the whereabouts of this hat was purchased. And it is not a fitted hat. It is a snapback hat. I am more of a snapback individual than I am a fitted one, just because I like the ability to adjust the at different points and such. But yeah, it's a great hat. It's my lucky hat. I wear it every Seahawks game, basically since I got it at Christmas, and they've yet to lose. So I'm going to continue with that ritual through Super Bowl Sunday as well, and even going forward. So it may look more tattered as the years go on here, but thank you for the $2 donation, Derek. Appreciate it. What do we else we got in here from everybody? Okay, so this whole thing with the Seahawks sale, I'm just going to kind of touch on it because it may come up tomorrow night with Mookie and Michael on the preview show, but the Seahawks are for sale. They just are not currently taking a bid on them today or this week. The Seahawks are for sale because the trust demands that they are sold. It will be a situation, I think, where I predict the Seahawks will be sold by the end of the 2026 calendar year. So December 2026 of this year, Seattle will have a new owner. These things don't happen overnight. They don't get sold and all that. There's a whole bunch of things. I have a eking suspicion that someone has approached Jody, and this is where I think Robert Kraft and his group, and who's on that board that makes these decisions at the NFL level, leaked a bit of this out to Seth Wickersham and so on. But I have a feeling someone has approached Jody and the group and said, hey, the value estimation is 7 or 8. Here's 10 or 11 billion. I will overpay to get the team. And as much as it may worry people, I have a feeling it's probably Jeff Bezos. The NFL wants Bezos. They have the Amazon partnership with the, through Bezos and the NFL. Bezos has says before he's wanted to look at owning the Seahawks in particular. They tried to get him the Commanders, but I could see a situation where Jeff Bezos becomes the owner at some point next year of the Seattle Seahawks. I also don't see him moving the team. I don't see the NFL signing off on that because of the simple fact, if you were to move the Seattle Seahawks, you are putting such a geographical problem in place for the NFL. You do not have a team. The closest team to the East in that point, in my opinion, that's close to the border is Minnesota, I think. South, it's the 49ers. And you lose all of where I even live, the western part of Canada. The Seahawks are kind of the team, whether it's British Columbia, Alberta, even to a point Saskatchewan a little bit. Like, they're all kind of, because it's the closest team. So if you move this team out of here, you are losing a massive amount of revenue in that particular region of of North America. I just don't see anyone, the NFL signing off on it, whether an owner wants to. I don't see the NFL signing off. I don't think there will be an owner that will want to. The other part of this too is I think if an owner like Bezos were to come in with that kind of revenue and their own personal it changes a bit of the escrow options for the Hawks. And I know Brandon's talked about it a bit, is now all of a sudden some free agents aren't necessarily unattainable because Seattle can put more money into escrow when it comes to contracts and potentially get bigger and better free agents if they want to go down that path at point. So there are some positives, and obviously it's always kind of a scary thing. We've come so, far with the Allen family and what they did to save football in Seattle and how important they are to this organization and always will be. You may have another owner come in here, but I personally view it this way. I always will view the Seattle Seahawks as the Allen family team. And that's how I'll always view it, regardless who the new owner is, that Paul Allen and his family are the reason Seattle Seahawks football exists. And they'll always be the way I look at it. They'll always be the true kind of owners and legacy owners in my mind of this team. And that's how I'll always view it. So, change does happen. It's something that's always scary. But you got a whole community here on the Hawks side through all the other content creators and so on, and even the Pacific Northwest, that we can all kind of, we're going to go through it together. And that's the key thing. And we kind of have each other to vent off of and our, how we feel about things. And it's one of the best things about the Seahawks community as a whole. So we got another donation in here. Peter, with another $2 donation, $50 on JSN Sam, K9, Nick Human Warrior, and D-Law for MVP thoughts. Why not? I think one of them will win it. Personally, if they win the Super Bowl, I think one of those guys will be the MVP of the game, Peter. So I say go for it. What else do we got in here? We got one from Tanner. Do you think Seattle is able to contain Barrymore and Milton Williams using 12 and 13 personnel? Yes, I do. And I think the fact Seattle is such an outside zone team, Tanner, is going to actually help mitigate the impact of those two players, mainly because of how they align sometimes with 5 techniques and 1 techniques. It makes it a lot easier to block. You want to kind of look at that, Tanner? I would suggest going and watching the episode I did with Coach Derek from All 22. We kind of break down their personnel matchups and how to attack in the run game and how Seattle's outside zone run could really present a problem for New England and how they align, regardless if Williams and Barrymore are in there. So I would definitely go check out that show. What else do we got? Do we have anything else? Jake, no, don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Root for the Seahawks. Don't root for the Patriots. What else do we got in here? Oh, here we go. We got one from Chosen. Bryce, do you think the Pats D solely focuses on JSN? Will that open up the field for Ken Walker? So Taylor kind of brought it up that he thinks Gonzalez follow JSN, which I think I heard one of the Patriots players say the same thing today. It was reported. Personally, yeah, I could, they can focus on JSN all they want. Teams have tried to do it all year, and it hasn't really been a benefit to them. And the thing that's scarier now is Cooper Kupp seems to be coming alive a little bit. JSN is, still able to do his thing. Rashid Shaheed. But I do think, to your point about Ken Walker, yes, I think if they focus on him and they, have a safety constantly rolling over the top, the one thing Clint Kubiak has done well, and this is something I would, really suggest you guys when you're watching this game watch, is how the receivers move in a run play versus how the receivers move on a play action play. They are almost identical in what they do. And so it makes it really hard for defenses to understand if Seattle is doing play action or if they're running the ball, because their releases and all those things are so similar, even if they're blocking, that it causes problems. So I don't know if it'll solely open up the field for Ken Walker. I think there will be an open field for him regardless. But if the Pats want to focus on JSN, go for it. It's just I don't know if that's going to be the key for them. We got one in here from Islam going, if the Seahawks can finish the job, this team has to be in the all-time discussion. I think it is. I think if Seattle does win, you have to put them in that discussion, because you're talking about a team that had a top 5 statistical offense, a top 5 statistical defense, a top 5 statistical special teams, went 14-3, won the hardest division probably the NFL has seen in a long time, with 3 teams with 12+ wins. And you had the offensive player of the year as a receiver that had the 8th best receiving season in NFL history on the 4th lowest pass attempts on a team ever, or in a season. I think it might be like they were so low this year. Sorry, it wasn't ever. It was a season. That's kind of historic in its own right. So I think you're kind of fair there. I've said that one of the shows I'm going to do, if Seattle wins the Super Bowl, I'm going to do a show where I'm going to compare this team to 2013 and just see what it, how this team ranks up, because that is currently our all-time team, is that 2013 team. It'll be interesting to see where this team kind of goes in there. What else do we got? Let's have a look here. So, John, she could keep paying that. She could, but the trust itself that Paul Allen had states she has to sell it. It can't be something where she just keeps paying it and paying it and paying it. What she could do, and this is something I've even suggested, she could potentially sell the team from the trust and purchase it herself. That is something she could do. A lot of people have kind of poo-pooed that idea, but it could be a possibility. Maybe that's what she does, is they get it out of the trust and she buys the team and still remains ownership of the team. That is something she could well do if she wants to. What else do we got here? We got another donation in here from Peter. $2 donation. Bezos, I have no idea what your emoji is. Could also spend a lot more on an OC to stay. Yes, he could, because there's no cap on salary cap for coaches. There is no such thing. So you could give, if you wanted to keep Clint Kubiak, you could give Clint Kubiak a 5-year, $100 million coaching deal as an OC if you wanted to pay that. That's something that changes when you get an owner of that capacity. Dad's got one in here. 10 million people contributing $500, and you'd be surprised how much dough it is. I know some people have suggested that, we do the same thing, purchase the Seahawks like the Packers have as a community ownership group. I don't know how possible that is. Maybe it is. Who knows? It would be interesting. Phil, I'm not exactly how much Washington sold for here. Let me pull that up and actually find out for you. Let's see here. 6.05 billion is what the Commanders sold for, which was the highest price ever paid for a North American professional sports franchise. So the Seahawks are already estimated at 7 to 8 billion, and I got a feeling they'll probably maybe get to 10 when the sale's done. Let's see. What else do we have kicking around in here? Oh, Jason. Oh, it's always good to see Jason James in the chat. If May runs, he won't make it through the game. He's horrible at sliding and loses control of his body. His head constantly is bouncing off the ground, so go ahead and run. Yeah, that's fair. The other thing I'll say about this, in the playoffs, I think Dre May has had 6 fumbles. So there's an opportunity for turnovers there. I kind of agree with you there, Jason. Let him go do what he's going to do. What do we got in here? We've got Alpha. Always good to have you in here, friend, even from the Discord on the way over here. Seahawks defense will suffocate May. Their play calling and scheming only gets better when they have extra time. Hawks take it 27-13. Walker will run long TD, and Shaheed will get a deep shot for 6. I would love to see Shaheed get an offensive touchdown. He's had so many special teams ones. I just love for him to get a deep post or a deep go ball, catch it, and score. And I think they'll be off and running. Ooh, this is a good one. I like this. Interesting. What player other than Sam Atkins has worn 12 jersey in a Seahawk game playing as a Seahawk? Ooh. That's a good one, Mazer. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. This is definitely before I was born, so I'm trying to think. Let's see. If you guys know the answer, feel free to put it in the chat here, because I am stumped. I did know of Sam Atkins. I didn't know of anybody else. Let's see here. I don't think, has anyone else worn it, Mazer? I'm not sure anyone else has. But if there is, feel free to put it in there. I know Jerry Rice obviously wore 80 when he came in for Largent there for a bit, but I'm not sure. This is interesting. Chris Smith there from Whitby Island. I'd be down for that, Chris. I think that's actually a really interesting kind of idea. She puts up half of it, and then the other 51% or whatever could be purchased through season ticket holders and whoever wants to own a stake of the team. I'd be all for that idea. I think that'd be a great idea. We got one here from Ben going, if Shaheed runs Deshaun Jackson routes, he'll be unstoppable. Totally agree. Oh, interesting. Okay, so Jim Zor wore it in 79. Interesting, Brian. Okay, so okay, so this is the full answer. Okay, I wondered if it was. Okay, so Mazer puts in, Jim Zor had his 10 ripped, and the refs wouldn't let him back in the game, so he put on the 12 to end the game. Interesting. Okay, that's a cool, fun fact. I really like that, guys. I really, really like that whole trivia thing. That's awesome. But again, way before my time, unfortunately, and I was not alive in '79 to see that, so I didn't. So I apologize on that one. But I think we're gonna wrap this show up in a little bit here, guys. Maybe see if we get any more donations in here. 5 more minutes. I will be back tomorrow, 7:45 Pacific time. Myself, Michael Thompson, Mookie Alexander. We will all be on doing a full live preview show / hangout show. Come here, get your preview, get your anxiousness the day before the Super Bowl out. We'll all sit, we'll talk, we'll have it out in conversation. We'll get Mookie's whole week and what it's been like down in Santa Clara, what he's seen and felt from this team. And obviously Michael will be with us as well. What else do we got in here? We've got one from Peter. Go Hawks. Again, Peter, thank you so much for your contributions to the channel and to the work that I do. I really appreciate it. Another $5 donation. Give us 3 ways we can take advantage of Pat's coaching and scheme. I think Mike number already and will be living in their head all game. So, okay. So from my perspective as a coach, a couple things I would do. I would have my coaches on my offensive staff. You have ones up in the booth. So whether that's Jake Peets, whoever that is up in the booth, telling me by looking at the other team's sideline when they're doing their substitutions. So that way we can change the tempo on the Patriots and lock them into their substitution packages where you get a Harold Landry on the field or a Chase on where you can really run at them at the edge and really cause issues. Same with getting Tavia on the field. The other thing I'd like to see from Seattle in the passing game is run a lot of rub concepts or pick plays, not pick plays as much as rubs, just to create, again, communication issues for that Patriots team. And then on defense, sim pressures, bring Nick, bring Drake Thomas, run some stunts. The key is don't stunt just to Big Cat, which they did a little bit too much in the NFC Championship, which McVay picked up on and they were prepared for with their offensive line. And attack that left side of that line. Like really go after Wilson and Campbell, make their day hard. And don't outthink it on offense. Kubiak sometimes can get ahead of himself. He's been really good lately. Don't outthink yourself. Stay within yourself. Stay to what's worked for us and been true. And just don't put the whole game on Sam. Like I know we've seen him do really well in the NFC Championship game with that, but it wasn't like the full game was on him yet. It was still very much like we can be balanced. We can do some of those things that we're, good at, still keep the run game going. So those would be kind of how I would handle that. What else do we got in here? Let's see. Appreciate it, John. And yeah, Taylor was great to have on. We'll try and get him back in the next point. He'll probably be the guy that I bring on most of the time for Seahawks play the Patriots. So next year we are playing the Patriots at home. So I'll definitely have him back on for that one. Let's see. Oh, this is a good one from Alpha. I think Derek Hall and Lawrence both get sacks off Campbell. Both long-arm guys with lots of power. Yeah. It will be definitely I definitely feel those two could have a day. I could even think Boye Mafe might have a bit of a day. Noob comes in. I can't find that hat anywhere. I know I've tried. I can't find it. It's really cool. It's black. It's this weird faded like kind of patch front to it. It's the coolest Hawks hat I really have, honestly. And so it's turned into the lucky hat as well. So again, I'll make sure to bring it when I go to training camp this year. And if any of you guys are at training camp and end up seeing it there, I'll feel free to, see if we can find it somewhere there. Mazer, my new Seahawks hat is uncomfortable. I always wear my old ratty one. Oh, well. Yeah, that's the thing I don't like about fitted too much is they tend to shrink a little bit if you do wash them or whatever. And they've, just they're not my cup of tea. I like the snapbacks. All right, Cody, I see you got a question, bud. Put it in the chat here, and I'll answer your question before we wrap up today's show. What do we got here? Alpha brought in another good one. Campbell even struggled last week with Bonito when he matches up significantly better against speed rushers because of his frame. Agreed. And that's the thing. Like, Boye Mafe is really our only speed rusher. Mike McDonald doesn't go to that. He's more of the power. And this is where, when I was down at Senior Bowl with Brandon and Dan, I really liked Zion Young. I really like Derek Moore. Some of these guys that are bigger power rushers, because I think that's what McDonald's looking for. That's what he likes out of his edges. So it'll be interesting to see how they address that going forward into the draft and so on. But all right, Cody, I'll give you literally 2 more minutes here, man. And I'm going to wrap up the show. So if you want to get your chat question in as soon as possible. Let's see. Oh, feed me. What's going on, man? Feed me more. Seahawks in here. Hey, Bryce, how are you? Did you see Jared versus conference with Jared verse saying they felt a sense of entitlement going into the NFC Championship game? Interesting. So the Rams felt the entitlement. That's interesting. I could see it. I could in some respect, because even the way McVay talked about it after, like, he didn't plan for them to lose and all this, like, they kind of thought they were going to come in and win that game. And I think they still looked at Seattle as their little brother in a way, even though Seattle had won in week 16, because I think in their minds, they thought the week 16 win was a fluke by the Hawks. And so I think that's what's kind of cool about the 3-game arc is you had the first game where Seattle was completely awful on offense. They still lose by 2 points and a last-second field goal miss. You get to week 16. Seattle does have a couple plays here and there, but really get the punt return, a whole bunch of things go. Sam Darnold gets the monkey off his back, and then you come into this third game where, the defense doesn't play all that great throughout the whole, but they have key stops, and Sam Darnold outduels Matthew Stafford. You kind of saw the full picture come full circle. And I think that's an interesting take for sure. Okay, Cody, you got your question in here. Do you think we are a better team than the Pats, like defense and offense? Yes, totally. I think we are. I think we're deeper. I think we're, I think the Patriots are a good football team. I just don't know the Patriots. I think the Patriots are living in a world where they played a very weak AFC conference this year. They had a very non-difficult run to the AFC Championship game into the Super Bowl, because you're looking at a Chargers team that had no offensive line for Justin Herbert, and they struggled offensively versus that Chargers defense, which, again, has a player like a Nick Emanwari and Derwin James. Then they go up against the Texans. The Texans defense gives them fits for the majority of that game. The Texans offense can't operate because they're missing their playmaker. They go up against the Broncos. The first half of that game, they have 1 touchdown on 2 plays because Stidham has a mental brain lapse and shovels the ball. If the Broncos kick a field goal early in that game and he doesn't have that play, the Broncos are probably who we're playing in the Super Bowl, because Drake May did not have a good game. Like, Drake May in the postseason is only completing 55% of his passes. So that's where Taylor was even talking about. Regular season Drake May versus playoff Drake May is Jekyll and Hyde. What do we got here? Oh, we got another super chat here from Matt in Beaverton. $5 donation. Thank you, Matt. What do you think about JSN breaking out the throw across hook and ladder? He successfully did it twice last year and maybe do it to Sheed. No trick plays unless you absolutely have to do it, Matt. I don't want to see a trick play in the Super Bowl. Even the photos of Cup throwing has everyone panicked. So, I'm good on that end, friend. But I appreciate the donation. But no trick plays. Let's stay away from those. What else do we have in here before we get out of here? All right, everyone. Well, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. I appreciate all of you being in here. And a couple things before I do get out of here. Number one, if you want to join the Hawkeye Discord, which we have, scan the QR code up there in the corner. It will allow you guys to join the Discord, follow the show on Spotify. I will be getting Apple and a couple other podcasting platforms set up here in the near future, which will be a lot of use for me, as well as any of the other stuff that's in there for the Hawkeye will all be located in that QR code. So feel free to scan that. On top of that, I didn't announce it yet, but I'm going to announce it now before we have our show tomorrow, before the season ends. I'm going to do kind of a cool show. Amy Holmes, John McGrath have been made aware of this show as their moderators in the chat, but I'm going to be doing a Seahawk, how do I want to put this? A Hawk's Eye Seahawk fan season wrap-up show. It's something I'm going to do at the end of every Seahawks season where Amy, John, myself, we're going to kind of go through, pick a few viewers that want to have the opportunity to actually come on the show with me, with Amy. Mookie Alexander will be joining me as a co-host, and we will have a full-on conversation, and you guys will basically be guests on the show. So I'm going to have about 4 or 5 open spots for that. So we're going to look into that over the back half of next week. And then we'll get that show up before the end of February. It'll be a live show. So people that necessarily aren't on or don't feel comfortable coming on that get an invite can still join through the chat. But it'll be a show to thank you all for coming and supporting me and what I'm doing here on the Hawks Eye. It's been a kind of a whirlwind for me starting this channel in August after leaving the Hawks Zone rundown. To where it is now at the end of the season. We're like 60 subscribers away from 2,000, which was my goal to get to at the end of the year. So, yeah, it's going to be fun. It's my thank you to you guys to have you guys literally come on the show with me and talk Hawks for a night and just be here and actually have that interaction. So, outside of that, as we always do, if you haven't, subscribe to the channel, click that notification button so you never miss an episode, especially when I do things like tonight and go an hour early after I've booked it for 6 and we go at 5. But with that all being said, I will see you all here tomorrow night, 7:45 Pacific time for our live preview show with me, Michael, and Mookie. But as always, stay loud, be proud, and go Hawks. Have a good night, everybody.